Hello there. Good morning to you. Welcome. This is Newsroom here on GHOne Television. My name is Lantam Papanko. Let's take a look at the headlines making the bulletin today. And coming up in the bulletin today, mid-year budget to be read in Parliament tomorrow. And in this bulletin, we'll gauge the expectations. How much is data costing you? Join us on social media as we find out why social media has data trending. Also ahead in the bulletin, rot exposed in sports once again as Para-Athletic Committee distances itself from alleged visa fraud. Also, later on in the bulletin, thank you once again for joining us here on Newsroom. The bulletin is streaming live on Facebook, on X, and of course, we are on Instagram. Join us at GHOne TV. You can also check us out on YouTube. The Ghana Union Traders Association is urging the Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, to announce measures to stabilize the Ghana cedi. The association is concerned about the impact of the local currency's decline on the operations and the overall economy. The Minister of Finance is scheduled to present the government supplementary budget on Tuesday, July 23, 2024 in Parliament. This presentation may address GHOTE's concerns and provide solutions to stabilize the Ghana cedi. Many Ghanaians are expecting the government to implement remedial measures to address the current economic challenges, including high inflation and the high cost of basic items on the local market. The minister's presentation is expected to provide relief to ordinary citizens. Now, tomorrow's presentation is crucial in addressing the current economic challenges and providing a clear direction for the country's economic growth. Well, we're joined via Zoom by the president of GHOTE, Dr. Joseph Obeng, and he'll help us understand exactly what their expectations are with regard to the mid-year budget review presentation tomorrow. Dr. Obeng, good morning. Welcome to Newsroom here on GHOne Television.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for your time. Obviously, I know that you're expectant. There are many things that you want to see in the mid-year budget review presentation, which will be done by the finance minister in Parliament tomorrow. Can you highlight some of those things for us?
You know that we have been talking about cost of doing business being very high in this country because of the numerous taxes that we have to contend with, especially with clearance of goods at the ports. And so these are basically what the business community have to contend with. And if you look at the current depreciation of the local currency, it is also not helping the growth of businesses. And then you can't predict, you can't forecast and all that. For now, there's a seeming stability for some time. And what we expect from the finance minister to bring out measures that can sustain stability of the local currency. That's the surest way to help grow the growth of businesses in this country. And so we are not also expecting another layer of taxes as have been promised by the minister himself. You recall that we were talking about plastic, the imposition of excise tax on plastic industry. And that if that one is done away with, means that they are going to have the respite to do their business. Then we are also thinking about the this year being election year, how we are going to manage expenditure so that we do not incur deficit for the subsequent year. Because normally, if we overspend, then the rippling effect is that the subsequent year by way of tax payment and all that. And so these are just a few of the things that we are expecting from the finance ministry.
Right. I mean, you're looking at how the cedi can continue to stabilize. How much of a big deal is that for members of your union, that the cedi stays where it is or perhaps even improves, or that you hear measures that have been put in place to ensure that if even it's not going to improve, it stays where it is. How crucial is that for you to hear in the budget tomorrow?
So business thrives on a stable environment, and especially with regards to the local currency. When that happens, you are able to predict prices become stable in the market, turnover will increase, and all that will be able to service our debts, both local and abroad. And so it is very crucial to stabilize the local currency so that people, businesses will not collapse as a result. And that's why the stability that we are experiencing now, we should do everything possible to stabilize it, or if possible, make sure that the city gains some value again, so that businesses can have the ability to grow. So,
right. Right, and still on the impact of the city, looking back, say from the beginning of the year, when the first budget, was announced right up till now, how much of a problem has the city been for members of GHOne, and what has been the effect of it, on your businesses and how you go about your activities?
So depreciation of the local currency simply means depreciation of our capital. That's all. That's all that one can say. Because in the year 2022, when we incurred a similar depreciation because of the depreciation of the cedi, we lost about 52% of our capital. And now from the year 2024, beginning of the year till today, people have lost about 30% of their, almost 30% of their working capital because of the depreciation of the currency. So the effect is very high. When it happens like that, prices of goods and services also go up, because the duties that we pay also go up, because the duties are all benchmarked with the exchange rate. And when the rate goes up, it means that we have to pay a lot more duty. Prices of goods become expensive. And then the consuming public ability to buy the volumes that they have to buy is also affected, because the purchasing power is virtually not there. And so when prices of goods goes up, they are unable to buy the volumes that they used to buy. And businesses thrive on turnover.
Right.
So if they are not buying more, it means that you are unable to service your debts at the bank, and then even service your suppliers' credit. And then it leads you to collapse. And then you suffer depreciation of your stocks at the warehouses and all that. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for giving us these insights. And I hope you like what you hear in the budget presentation tomorrow. But Dr. Obeng, thank you very much for joining us here on Newsroom. Dr. Joseph Obeng is president of GHOne, speaking to us here on Newsroom. Obviously, one of the key expectations of GHOne is that measures will be announced for the stabilization of the Ghana cedi. The Ghana cedi for some time now has been fluctuating. The exchange rate has not been very stable, rising up to about 16 cedis, dropping to about 14, coming back up to around 15 cedis. It's been a problem for a lot of people who engage in imports and exports, like the members of GHOne. And what he's saying is that he would want to see or hear that measures have been announced so that there is a stabilization of the currency for them to be able to do good business. Let's stay on this a while longer. Dr. Edward Aka Nyamiche is the president of the Hoteliers Association. He's also joining us for a conversation on this particular subject matter. Now, Doc, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, I just want to ask what your general expectations will be as far as the budget presentation or the media budget review presentation for tomorrow is concerned.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. Obviously, with the mid-year budget review, one of the major expectations is that the minister will give us an assessment of what has gone on in the first half of the year with regards to the various indicators that was given in the budget. And I must say that Dr. Ben has done a very good job in summarizing the expectations of the business community, which the Ghana Hotels Association is certainly part of. So everything he said applies to us as well. The issue about the exchange rate, inflation, and then even the cost of borrowing also applies to us. But more specifically, we have some specific interests. First of all, it's about our taxes. And here I'm referring to the hotels association or the hotel industry, including the tourism industry. Last year, before the budget was read, we had an engagement with the Ghana Tourism Authority and other stakeholders, and then proposed a consolidation of the several taxes that we pay in the industry. Unfortunately, the report came out very late in the day, so we were informed that it was not considered for that particular budget, which is this year's budget. However, they gave the assurance that they will continue the engagement with the ministry so that in the mid-year review, it will find space in it. Here we are with the mid-year review tomorrow, and it's our expectation that we'll hear an announcement that our taxes have been consolidated to a level that is affordable to the industry. So that's one part. The other part is about the 1% COVID-19 levy. If we don't hear anything about the consolidation, we want to hear that 1% COVID-19 levy has been taken off, or it's been scrapped or taken off the books. It's very, very important to us. And then we, like Dr. Bin mentioned, we also want that assurance that there are no new taxes at all, and also that the government will stick to the budget so that we don't have extra spending. And all this we know is under the context of the IMF engagement, okay? But we should be very careful not to pursue an agenda which will be to the detriment of the private sector, which lays a lot of the eggs for the economy.
Right. Would you say that there are any notable measures that were announced in the first budget? I mean, obviously, that was presented by Ken Ofori-Atta earlier during the year. Were there any notable measures in there that has adversely affected those in the hotel business that you're expecting that in the mid-year budget review perhaps will be eased to make doing business better? Obviously, you've talked about, you know, the 1% COVID tax that is being charged, but what are some of those things, juxtaposing the first budget to what you are expecting in this one, which will be done tomorrow?
Well, if you look at the general highlights of the 2024 budget, there was emphasis on fiscal consolidation and then the growth strategy. And fortunately, the tourism sector was mentioned in there. Now, the fiscal consolidation points to the need to ensure a stable economic environment. And I'm sure you agree with me that it has not been that stable over the past 6 months, except for the past few weeks.
Right.
Okay, talking about the inflation, talking about the exchange rate and all that. So we expect more, whatever measures have been done in the past 6 months, which has not really yielded those significant results. We expect more prudent measures that will ensure, because the challenge has to do with the economic environment, period. Most of the challenges has to do with the nature of the economic environment. And if that is addressed, we believe that it will bring some respite to us as well. And of course, you see the issue about the exchange rate, now we are very much aware, has to do with utility bills, including electricity and water, and even fuel. Okay, so if that fundamental part of the exchange rate is not addressed, it means we'll continue to wallow in the situation of the utility bills going high and also fuel going high. And all these affect our industry. It's eroding all our profits. Okay, and I think if we if there's anything at all that we need to be mindful about, it is about stabilizing the economy. That fiscal consolidation must be done and done very well so that by the end of the year, I mean, right from the reading of this mid-year review budget up to the end of the year, we should see some significant stability in the economic variables to assure businesses that going into the future we'll be able to have those profit margins that we need so much to keep our businesses going.
Very well. Thank you very much, Dr. Nyamicha, for speaking to us here on Newsroom. And you've just heard us speak to the Secretary of the Hoteliers Association. Of course, obviously, they also expect that proper measures will be announced in the mid-year budget review, which will make their business quite easy. It talks about not expecting any new taxes, the stabilization of the city, obviously, among other things. Let's talk to an economist now. Professor Patrick Assuming is an economist and lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, and we're very happy to have him on board. Prof, welcome to the bulletin. So, looking at the first budget that was presented at the beginning of this year, for this year, by Ken Ofori-Atta, who was finance minister then, and the measures that were announced in there, and how those measures in that budget have played out all the way till this point where we need to hear the mid-year, budget review. Based on that, if you are doing your analysis, what would be your expectations, for the announcement that will be done, or should I say for the reading that will be done by the finance minister tomorrow in Parliament?
Good morning, and good morning to viewers and also the co-panelists. So I think if you look at how the budget implementation has gone in the first half of the year, you get a sense, and there's been some hints from the finance minister that we shouldn't be expecting new taxes. And then also, it's unlikely that there will be an additional request for additional money to be spent. And I think all of those are positive things. Obviously, I don't think Ghanaians would have been in any mood at all to tolerate any new taxes, given the multiplicity of taxes we've seen over the last couple of years. And in terms of the macroeconomy, the broader macroeconomy, we should definitely going to get an update how the consolidation effort that were announced have played out in the first 6 months. You get the sense that there's a chance that there might be an update, especially to the growth target, given how the first quarter growth number went, and also the fact that the other major international organizations have all upgraded their projections, expecting the economy to grow a little faster. I'll be surprised to see if there's any update on the inflation number, the inflation target. And but generally, I think it would be great to hear any measures that the government have in terms of building the economy going forward. We spent the last 2 years speaking a lot about consolidation and then stabilization. Obviously, the stability that we are all expecting have not happened yet. There's been some measure of stability, but we're still a long way off where we should go. But I think Ghanaians want to see beyond that where the economy is headed and where the long-term growth is going to come from. I think it is in that area that we haven't really heard enough. We've heard so much about consolidation measures. We've heard so much about some progress that have been made. But I think Ghanaians want to hear a little bit more vision going forward, how the economy is going to pan out, so that we don't return to the problems that we've had in the last couple of years.
I've spoken to the Hoteliers Association, to GHOne as well, and one of the key things that they've been concerned about is hearing what will be done to maintain, the city where it is now, if not improve it. From where you sit, how crucial is it? And, what kind of measures possibly could even be announced by the finance minister to make sure that the city stays where it is, doesn't get worse than it already is?
The stability of the currency is extremely important. I think the way our economy has become extremely dependent on import, and Ghana is one of the most open economies in the world.
Right.
So the movement of the currency is extremely important, and the inability of government to get a hold of the currency is a problem. So we've seen in time past several things that have been done that have largely not been successful. So we've heard about gold for oil and the oil purchase program. And then in recent times, the finance ministry has announced some expectation that the currency will stabilize because of incoming inflows. But obviously, those things have not done enough to stabilize the currency. To be honest, I don't think that at this point, in the short term, there's anything that the government can do. The finance ministry had thought that by announcing that we are going to get new inflows, it will help the stability of the currency. That didn't happen. In fact, he went ahead to say, or to imply that the 360 million that we were receiving from the IMF was going to help stabilize the currency. I think that expectation was actually unfounded, because you wouldn't expect that only 360 million will stabilize the currency. In any case, we knew for a long time that those funds were coming. So so unfortunately, I think that if government says it's going to announce any measures to stabilize the currency in the next 6 months, I mean, we should. I'll be very surprised whether whatever they're going to announce is going to work. I think we need to understand that we need to change how the economy is financed. It's the main reason why the currency is so unstable, because there's too much reliance on foreign financing. And in time past, what we have done is to borrow from the capital market to support the currency. Now that's no longer available to us. So now it's time for us to actually focus on the longer term measures, diversifying our export base, or doing more import substitution, so that the things that we really shouldn't be importing, especially food items that we shouldn't be importing, that we are importing, we can cut down on them. But ultimately, we can't run an economy that just depends on purely financing from elsewhere. That's just not going to happen. That's just not going to help us, because when you do that, every time external conditions change, it's going to affect your currency. And that's exactly what we've been experiencing over the last decade or so. Unfortunately, I haven't seen or heard any specific plans in that direction to change how the economy is financed. And I'm hoping that maybe against hope, in this particular budget review, we might hear some of those things.
Very well, Prof. We'll leave the conversation here, but we're grateful that you spoke to us here on Newsroom. Professor Patrick Assuming is an economist with the University of Ghana, speaking to us on expectations for the mid-year budget review presentation tomorrow. And this should do it for business here on Newsroom. Now, shifting our focus, and the National Communications Authority is facing a series of criticisms from social media users over high internet data pricing. The subject of the high cost of data resurfaced on social media over the weekend after an ex-user posted about MTN being declared a significant market power, which he claims accounts for MTN's high cost of data. This has since led to several rants on social media, with many lamenting the cost of internet data in the country, prompting the NCA to respond to the public's concerns. In a statement, the regulator highlighted a recent study ranking the country as one of the most affordable in Africa. The NCA reassured customers that this classification aligns with its mission to ensure fair competition and protect consumer interests within the telecommunications industry. But unconvinced about the NCA's explanations on the high cost of data, some subscribers insist on a cost reduction. They spoke to the news team. Take a listen.
Now the prices of data are very high, and me as a student, it's affecting me most, because doing research, doing project work, use data, and when you buy data price expensive, it not even last to less than 5 million, everything is gone. So I think MTN, that is everywhere you go, they are everywhere. So I think they should come down for us. So that
since last year it was good, but now it's no good. The data, the prices are high, and they have also reduced the data, the amount of the data. At first, it was like, if you buy 3 CDs, you get like 400 and something megabytes. But now, if you buy 3 CDs, you get 356 megabytes. Yeah, so it's affected. Recently, data. Because within 1 week or 2 weeks, I spend about 20 Ghana or 40 Ghana cedis for a bundle. And even self, I just bought 1 gig right now. It's got finished, and it's very, very terrible.
So I really do things with this online stuff, online business, because most of them we need data for daily activity. Sometimes you buy data within a short time, you check your balance or anything will give you notification that you are left with, let's say 50% for the data to get finished. Yeah, so it's very affecting us in a bad way. I would say a bad way.
Yes, I use data, but now I cannot afford it anymore. I have not even been able to pay what I borrowed from the service provider. What I used to buy for 1 cedi is now 6 cedis. So now what I used to buy for 2 cedis is now 12 cedis.
Well, let's stay on this a while longer. Joining me via Zoom is the man behind the advocacy for low cost of data, Yeboah Samuel. He's also the host of Tech in Chi. Yeboah, welcome to Newsroom here on GHOne TV. Let me ask you first of all, what prompted you to start this advocacy about the cost of internet data on X?
The cost of internet data, internet data is something essential. It's been an essential thing in the country now. And since we are, the vice president is advocating for digitalization, we need cheaper data, like cheaper cost of data in this country. Because let me use the vice president yesterday post, for example. The vice president is urging Ghanaians to just go on all social media platforms to check the project that he has done. But if you are to join this project for just 1 hour, it will cost you like 2.9 gig. And 2.9 gig, it will cost you 50 Ghana cedis. The minimum wage in Ghana daily is 18 Ghana cedis. So that means you will need to take 2 days to watch the vice president project just only that evening.
Right.
You see, that is very concerning.
Right. And of course, when you talked about how costly internet data has become, tagging the NCA to respond and all of that, they've come out with a response. They say that relatively, when you look at the sub-region, Ghana's internet data is relatively cheap. What do you make of the response by the NCA?
Okay, so I think NCA flagging MTN as SMP. NCA here is, I believe that they are abusing the word significant market power here, because when you go to the US, recently Google has had a lawsuit against Google that Google is trying to flag his own products on the Google search instead of showing relevant content to the people. So currently, they are just, Google is facing a lawsuit. Also, Apple recently faced another lawsuit, and the government have addressed it because Apple was just trying to forcing developers to pay 30% using their own payment system, and that the government has addressed it, and the cost, the 30% is now 28%. That means significant market power needs to be in favor of the consumers. So just in case you, NCA, you want to just say, okay, I've implemented significant market power. So you, Telecel and Tigo, Telecel and Arts, AT, we are waiving tax from yours so that you can invest in equipment, and also you can give cheaper data as compared to MTN. But you, NCA, knowing that a lot of people are using MTN, and you urge MTN to decrease their data prices, that means you are causing crisis in the country, because the vice president himself have confirmed that the economy is struggling, and you placing SMP in this form, that means you are causing a lot of anger. Why don't you urge other communicate? Let's say MTN is giving 300 gig for 200 cedis. Okay, Telecel and Arts. Okay, we are waiving tax from yours. Give 500 gig for 200 cedis,
right,
or 600 gig for 200 cedis. You give a lot of multiple choices to the people just to choose, but to reduce it, I think it is below the belt. Yeah.
Right, so before we let you go, moving forward, I mean, are you continuing with this advocacy until you see a change? Of course, the conversation is already rife on social media.
Yeah, we need to see a change because currently Nigeria, they are enjoying 100 Ghana cedis for 100 gig with the same MTN, not different MTN, with the same MTN, 100 cedis for 100 gig. So at least Ghanaians to get like 100 cedis for like 80 gig or 90 gig. We need to see that kind of change for a country that we are advocating for digitalization.
All right, very well, Yeboah. Thank you for joining us here on Newsroom. This is the man behind that advocacy on social media about the high cost of internet data. And that's a fight that I would like to join because internet data is quite expensive, especially when you look at MTN. Exactly how much would get you, say, 180 gig is the same amount that will get you just 92 gig today. I mean, it's quite unconscionable if you ask a lot of people. And so let's make sure that we're able to do something about it. But still on social media, a lot of you have been tweeting at us, sending us messages on Facebook and Instagram. So let's find out what you have been saying about this. Nana Ama Aqua is in the studio with the details. Nanama, what are people saying?
Well, Lantam, as you said, the conversation is raging. Let's shoot straight over to Facebook. Peter says, so I'm being forced to use midnight data to do most stuff now. Then Efo adds, this matter, I don't want to talk. It's well, it is, Efo. Then we have here, we no go talk. We all go suffer for this country top. The most painful part is the poor internet speed in this country, especially in certain areas. Then we have here a lot. A week, I spend like 200 cedis on data. Then we have here, imagine saving what I used on data for a year. Never again, NPP. Kofi says 3 cedis, sir. A few moments later, 300 cedis gone. Oh, I'm a Ghana. Then we have here, Gemsino, the network companies are burdened with heavy taxes. The network companies had to be passing the tax burdens to the already suffering Ghanaians. If we don't learn from the youth of Kenya, a time will come. These good-for-nothing leaders will run this country down. Emmanuel says he's been using free VPN for 2 years now. Tell us how it works. And when we go to Instagram, Araba says, would have owned houses. We also have here, if not for data, what is Range Rover? How much data do you use? And when we move over to X, Victor says, how can I buy 2.2 gig of data for 12 cities and within 1 hour, it's all gone? ATP. At this point, it's just ruthless pricing. Then we have Benji. The thing is affecting me in such a way that I wish I can relocate to Europe or US. If I have 100 Ghana cedis, just know that 70 Ghana cedis is for data, I tell you. Then we have here, exorbitant data prices like 50 Ghana cedis for 2.98 gigabytes in 2024 hinders the digital era progress. High costs limit internet access, stifle innovation and economic growth. Affordable data is essential for digital literacy, business opportunities and global competitiveness. That's very important points there. Well, that's what we have for social media. Continue to send us your messages on Instagram, on Facebook and on Twitter. Less money, more data. My name is Nanama Aqua. Over to you, Lantam.
Thank you very much, Nanama Aqua, with the details there from your comments on social media. Obviously, a lot of you are very interested in this particular subject matter. So let's keep the advocacy going on social media to make sure that we are able to afford the internet data, which has become so crucial in this era, in the 21st century. Away from that, a neurologist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Kwame Mensah, has encouraged members of the public to engage in activities that stimulate their brains in order to improve their mental health. According to him, such activities will enhance cognitive function and overall mental being. He gave the advice on GH Today, here on GHOne Television, as Ghana joins the rest of the world in commemorating World Brain Day.
We want to raise awareness about these conditions and also want to talk about prevention. In fact, the theme for this year's World Brain Day is about prevention. So like you mentioned, 90% of strokes are actually preventable. And the main thing you have to do is live a good, healthy lifestyle. And then also if you have like things like high blood pressure, make sure it's treated. and any conditions that can contribute to you having any of these brain health, get it screened, identified early, and then you can prevent some of these complications from taking place. So you want to slow down this decline as much as possible. So keep your brain active, learn new things, make sure your brain is stimulated. Some people like crossword puzzles, some people like things like Sudoku. It helps, keep the brain active. Then make sure you get plenty of exercise, make sure you sleep well. So about 6 to 8 hours of sleep in a day is what is recommended. And then also know your numbers. So we talked about high blood pressure, which drives a lot of our strokes. So once you start getting to the age of about 35, 40, you should be checking your blood pressures at least once a year.
Now, the British High Commissioner Harriet Thompson is encouraging stakeholders to come together for a presidential debate before the 2024 elections. The past week has seen intense back and forth on the possibility of a debate, especially between the flag bearers of the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress. British envoy noted that the debate would enlighten the electorate on policies.
So if it happens, that will be a great opportunity for people to see the candidates themselves explain their vision for the country. There are other ways for that to happen as well, of course. And I think what's most important is for the debate to be based around the policies. Where I think things can run into trouble is where we see politics becoming about personalities and individuals, becoming personalised. What matters for the people is what are the policies, what are the priorities that the candidates and their parties see for the country, and how do those reflect what individuals, what citizens want for themselves and their communities.
You're still watching Newsroom here on GHOne Television. We'll take a short break and return with some more stories. You're welcome back to Newsroom here on GHOne Television. It's time now for the sports updates here on Newsroom.
Sports. And today's story is President of both National Paralympic Committee and Africa Paralympic Committee, Samson Dean, has debunked reports the members of the Ghana Paralympic team have absconded after traveling to Norway for a sports event. Now, Dean revealed that the absconded team is a fake team that was sent by individuals who forged documents to deceive the embassy of Norway.
And the state is a person with disability, an amputated person, who engaged himself in forgery of documents with a former Ghana Amputee Football Association Secretary General with name Theodore Maule Viwoto, who have since, on the 18th of July, been suspended indefinitely by the MPC Ghana. I want to appeal to the people of Ghana that the pictures, the images, the stories that is going viral has nothing to do with any member or anyone they see in the picture. None of them are or are involved or have or are associated to these people. The letters that was sent with my signature on it were forged by these guys, which is NSAC and Theodore Maule Viwoto, who did all this forged document fraudulently, used my document to acquire visas for some people who are very unknown to the Paralympic family.
And that's Samson Dean, who has the Paralympic team here in Ghana, giving a response on the news making the rounds from this particular weekend. So who are these persons? There are 11 or 12 persons who have absconded. Let's give you the list of persons, as you can see on your screens now, who have absconded, and Ensuring Ghana grabs all the headlines. The names of the persons involved are as follows. Now we have Amanda Mireku, who was supposed to be the welfare officer of that team, George Jemfi Jesse, who is now deceased, who was supposed to be the coach of that team. There's Felicia Enima Mensa, equipment officer of that team as well, and then Matthias Essien was supposed to be a para-athlete. There's also other athletes like Emmanuel Atanga, supposed to be a para-athlete. Patrick Ahin, supposed to be a trainer. There's Godwin Obiri, supposed to be a para-athlete. Then there's Scottish Ofori, supposed to be also an athlete as well. The Messiah, or Mesua, as we call it, is Sylvester Andor. And then Yanusa Ali Kadiri is a para-athlete together with Nana Entry, the one who was arrested while trying to cross over from Norway. So these are the persons who have been involved in this particular issue that is going global. Now, what is the ministry also saying about this as well? That the Ministry of Youth and Sports have responded to this particular happening or this big news. Let's check out what the ministry has to say in their release. And according to the ministry, bits and parts of it, the ministry has no idea of these supposed para-sports persons who traveled from Ghana to Norway somewhere in April for that marathon to be held in Oslo, Norway. And if you read a statement, I want to read some parts of the statements for you. Now, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, as it is, this is how they operate. If a federation wants to travel with a national team, they must send a notice to the Ministry of Youth and Sports, who will then also notify the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Then they will forward the same communique with a list of persons involved to the various diplomats, whether the embassies or high commissions, to therefore facilitate the visas for these persons. But for this particular case, according to the Ministry of Youth and Sports, they wish to state that indeed they had no knowledge, they had no notice from both the National Sports Authority of Ghana and the Para Federation of any such games or events being held in Norway, which therefore required visas for any athletes. They were not given any notice, so they did not send out any letters out there to the Norway embassy to indeed warrant the issuing of visas for the athletes that have left and, of course, now are grabbing all the headlines. But, of course, later on the show at 1 p.m., on the game show, we have more details of this particular issue on the game at 1 p.m. on Star FM and also on GHOne TV. That's it for sports. Up next is E-Zone.
Well, on E-Zone today, the French Embassy in Ghana is assuring a continued support for creatives in the Ghanaian space. This comes after 15 creative brands were awarded grants under the Embassy's Creation Africa initiative. The grants, which range between 15,000 and 30,000 euros, were disbursed among 3 groups in the first cohort. Now, the initiative, according to the French Embassy, is to support brands to sustain their businesses with the objective of boosting Africa's creative industry.
To promote culture and creative arts in the country, the French Embassy in Ghana rolled out an initiative to support players in the industry through funding and mentorship. The initiative is set to inspire and renew optimism in Ghana's creative space. In a speech read on behalf of the French ambassador to Ghana, Jules Anyambosu, the head of culture and communication at the embassy, Julien Leca, remarked the scheme as a means to support and sustain growing businesses.
This project is really new also because we are going to give some money. You know, for the French government, for the French citizen, it's something new. We used to support, we used to organize some workshop. I'm looking about Marine because she always she told me we need to stop to make some workshop. We need to support the people. And so we decide to give some money to the winner to help them to improve their projects.
Ghanaian creative and cultural enthusiasts who applied for the French Embassy in Ghana's funding under the Creation Africa Ghana initiative underwent a series of elimination processes to come up with the final 15.
They are free to use the money as they will, and it was part of their final presentations what they intended to do with the money that they received. So we have a good idea and we can just hold them to it. Hopefully this program will be replicated in other countries. We don't know yet whether it's going to run in Ghana again, whether it's going to expand to other countries, etc. This really was the first of its kind, and we think it went quite well.
Winning creatives shared excitement in what they called a business-changing opportunity.
For me, I think the impact is you're giving creatives a vote of confidence and you're letting them know that their voices can be heard. You're letting them know they're important. You're letting them also know that you don't necessarily have to be a mainstream artist. Emerging acts will always have a stage at Rehoboth's Open Mic. And so content creation is expensive. As a media station, you might know that already, that content creation is very expensive. And so having animators, illustrators, people to create the content, videographers. So the challenge was hiring personnel, keeping a team, and so this will be a wonderful opportunity to increase our capacity and increase our team.
The creative brands were grouped into 3. The first 6 won 15,000 euros, next 6 with 20,000 euros, with the top 3 winning 30,000 euros each.
Well, that's it for GHOne. It's time for international news.